Hi everybody, here's Catalina. She's really feisty. She's 14. Yeah, she's a feisty little thing, aren't you? Okay, you go sit wherever you want. Oh, sorry about that. Catalina knocked off my camera. So we are on the last chapter, as you know, partway through. They're on the boat. They've discovered all these cats and nobody. A yellow kitten was winding itself around Jack's legs and he picked it up. This morning they had pockets full of gold dust and nuggets. Now they couldn't pay their fare home. He wondered how they would ever get back to Aunt Arabella and Constance and Sarah. Strange, said Praiseworthy again. They returned to the skiff and Jack put the kitten in his shirt. They tied up at the long wharf and walked into town and tried to find Captain Swain. Instead, they found Mr. Azaria Jones, the Yankee trader. He was standing outside an auction tent beside a barrel of free pickles. "Confound it," he said with a hearty laugh. "I recognize the boy, but is that you behind the whiskers and the red miner shirt?" "It's me," said Praiseworthy. "Help yourself to the pickles. I've become an auctioneer. You have bad luck in the diggings?" "You might say so," said Praiseworthy. "Help yourself to the pickles. You look hungry." "Thank you, sir," said Jack. "I am." "What happened to Captain Swain and the Lady Wilma?" said Praiseworthy. "The same thing that happens to almost every other ship that comes in here with a gold fever. His crew ran off to the diggings. Why, there are more than 200 ships out there rotting at anchor. Deserted. Captain Swain couldn't even hire enough men to unload his cargo. Finally, he just gave up in disgust and got himself a passage home. Have a pickle." "Is Dr. Buckby still in San Francisco?" asked Praiseworthy. He tried a pickle. "Not him. He got over the fever and gave up on that gold map of his. I heard he was horse doctoring somewhere up the river. Doing fine, too. Me, I'd be doing fine if the rats don't put me out of the cheap John business. Town's full of 'em. Why, a man can hardly stand still at night without something getting to gnaw on his feet. Blame it, I just got hold of some flour from Chile, and the rats are stealing me blind." Any ideas of what Praiseworthy might be thinking of? An idea? "Rats," said Praiseworthy. "Did you say rats?" remarked Jack. Mr. Azaria Jones nodded. "I auctioned off a cat yesterday for $15. Bam. "Cats," said Praiseworthy. "Did you say cats?" remarked Jack, pulling the kitten from his shirt. Mr. Azaria Jones clutched the kitten as if it were a nugget of gold. Praiseworthy gave Jack a wink and looked Mr. Azaria Jones squarely in the eye. "Why, I can safely say that Jack and I can supply you with an unlimited supply of ratting cats. Just provide us with a couple of bags and we'll be back." The cat auction drew such a crowd that the street was almost blocked. Every storekeeper needed a ratter and the bidding was spirited. Midway through the auction, the signal on Telegraph Hill announced the arrival of a sailing vessel. But hardly a soul left the auction. By late afternoon, Praiseworthy and Jack had a clink of gold pieces in their pockets. Their share of the cat money ran to almost $400. They wandered toward the long wharf to see about passage home. The sailing vessel had dropped anchor and now passengers were coming ashore. Suddenly, Jack stopped. He saw a young girl in a dark traveling dress that reminded him of his sister Sarah. Beside her was a taller girl who reminded him of his sister Constance. Beside them was a woman in a straw hat and green eyes who looked exactly like Aunt Arabella. It was Aunt Arabella. Jack could barely believe his eyes, and then he realized that even Praiseworthy had stopped in his tracks. But the woman and two young girls passed them by as if they were total strangers. "Sarah!" Jack cried out. The smallest girl turned. "Constance!" Jack exclaimed. The other girl turned. "Miss Arabella!" said Praiseworthy. The woman turned, and then suddenly, despite the disguise of jack boots, the rough red miner shirts, and the slouch hats, She recognized her nephew and the butler who had left Boston so many months before. Jack! Jack, dear, cried Aunt Arabella. There was a shout of joy, and they rushed back toward each other. Jack was engulfed in arms. Praiseworthy stood at a slight distance behind, and then, wiping an eye with her handkerchief, Aunt Arabella straightened and smiled and said, "Hello, Praiseworthy." "Hello, Miss Arabella. You've changed so, both of you." "Yes, miss. I'm delighted to see you, Praiseworthy." "I'm astonished to see you, Miss Arabella, and Miss Constance and Miss Sarah." Suddenly they were all talking at once. "We sold the old house," said Constance. "Soon as we could," said Sarah. "It was so big and so full of musty old memories," Aunt Arabella said, smiling now, "when we discovered Jack's note on the tea service that the two of you were running away to California. The girls and I couldn't wait to follow you. It was time to rid ourselves of that house of the past. It's like being free of a curse. Let me look at you." "Did you find gold?" Sarah blurted out. "Plenty of it," Jack said proudly, "and I drink coffee now." "Coffee!" exclaimed Constance. "They called me Jamocha Jack in the diggings." "How dreadful!" Aunt Arabella laughed. She turned back to Praiseworthy, regarding him with a green-eyed twinkle. "And what do they call you?" "Bullwhip, miss." "How fearful! What has happened to your black hat and coat and umbrella?" "Gone. If clothes make the man, as they say, Miss Arabella, I suppose I'm a miner now. Perhaps it's time I shed the past myself." "You make a very striking miner, it seems to me," Aunt Arabella smiled. "Out here one man is as good as another." "Only more so," said Jack. Aunt Arabella stood very straight. "I've always believed it." "Will you be returning to Boston?" said Praiseworthy. "Certainly not." That changed everything, and Praiseworthy crimped an eye, just like Pitch Pine Billy. Then he scratched through his whiskers. "In that case," he stopped to gather up his courage. "I mean—" "Yes," said Aunt Arabella. "If I'm no longer a butler, what I'm trying to say is, well, in California we say a thing straight out." Aunt Arabella smiled. "Then do stop beating around the bush, Praiseworthy. You see—" "Yes, I mean, women are scarce out here, Miss Arabella. Before you can walk a block, you're going to have 10 proposals of marriage." "How delightful." "What I mean to say is—" "Yes?" He cleared his throat. "Maybe this isn't the time or the place, Miss Arabella, but when a man strikes gold, he doesn't lose any time staking a claim." With sudden decision, Praiseworthy whipped off his hat. His mouth was as dry as a cured salmon, but he kept talking. "If there's going to be any proposals of marriage, I intend to be the first in line. I've got no vices to speak of, although I have taken to smoking strong cigars. To say it right out, Miss Arabella, will you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" Constance and Sarah began jumping up and down on their toes. "Oh, do, Aunt Arabella. We know you gave him your picture a long time ago." "He carries it in his shirt pocket," Jack exclaimed. Aunt Arabella was smiling through a wet sparkle in her eyes. "Marry you? Why, of course. I thought you'd never ask." And here